computer. Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Barbara Aronchu, and this is the Poetry Initiative for the raising of awareness for the role of fathers. And we are very lucky to have a father with us. We have Kenneth Maswabi, and we have Priya Lakshmi Gogol, and we have Mary Lynn Louise, and hopefully we'll have more people coming. It's a bad time weather-wise and time-wise. Okay, so we're going to start with, I think, the only father in the room. We'll start with Kenneth.
Okay. Yes, good evening. It's evening here. Good morning to those who are having a good morning. Yes, I'm happy to be here today. I can do 2 poems, if that's all right.
Yes, okay. Because there's only 4 of us, we can do 2. Yeah.
Yes. My first one goes like this. Fathers, I have been with fathers. They are ordinary human beings with extraordinary hands to hold life by the horns and build a better home for the ones they love. Fathers are extraordinary creatures. They have so much love in their hearts, yet most of the time they refuse to show it. Instead of pouring their love into the palm of life, they are pouring themselves into the heart of life. Through hard work and resilience, they have found a working formula that enables them to feed their families and build a fortress around their loved ones. Fathers are sometimes absent, far away from their loved ones, whether dead or alive, creating a deep well of pain and suffering, especially for the young ones. It is this abnormality that dent the seat of fatherhood. Fathers are a critical part of the family structure, protruding above the perimeter of the ordinary life. Fathers are the shield and the storm, able to hold a home together or to destroy its foundation. Fathers are a natural force for good. Through life's many challenges, most fathers remain strong, unwavering in their character, firm in their actions, and totally committed to their families. Okay, that's my first poem.
Very nice.
And
very nice.
I think my second poem will go along the same theme. I think that is my experience of my father. There are mixed emotions when you talk about fathers. So this second one goes like this. Sorry. Fathers, like the stainless steel that was forged into a knife, fathers are made of the toughest material to cut through life's dense foliage. Like a sharp knife, they are built to slice through unforgiving circumstances, make small pieces of progress in their quest to feed and care for their families. Fathers spend their lives in the trenches of life, away from the soft cushions of our hearts. It is easy to downplay their roles in our lives. It is easy to forget them, but they are the stuff that build our characters, the rigid anchors in our lives. Fathers are like the trenches where rivers flow. It is easy to be excited by the roar of the rushing waters and forget the underlying structure that makes it possible for the river to flow. Fathers have a genuine role in our lives. They can be the worst role models or the best heroes in our lives. It is easy to forget them, but it's not easy to forget their deeds, both bad and good. Fathers are the hinges in our lives. Let us swing the door of life and remember the strength and courage of our fathers. It is not easy to be a father. Thank you.
No.
Oh,
Yes.
oh,
Amen.
wonderful.
Yes. Very good. Very good.
Okay, so then we'll go to Priya Lakshmi. Are you ready?
Hello, everyone. Yes, you can hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good evening. Okay, so I was actually a little bit in a hurry, but still I wrote something in the memory of my father. So I lost him quite long back, and during my graduation days, you can say. So here I write from the daughter's point of view. So how a daughter feels for a father. First four lines, I'm just writing in general as from the point of a girl. So a father is a man with the guiding force. In the dark or in the light, he holds his daughter's hand, maybe for a short time, but he captivates her heart forever. What I mean to say is that a father, for a short time, I mean by, because like once she goes to, after marriage, when she goes to another house, so till that time, so that is why I mentioned short time. Now, in memory of my father, I have written, my father was a man who she grew up to rely on, a man who she first admired. His qualities and virtues she sought in every man, a man who was just not a father, but a dad. He consoled me, he loved me, no matter how much I was mad. He was a man who taught me the virtues of life. Strength he gave me, and the struggles when I took them in my stride. Maybe he's not anymore, but I know that God always takes away his favorites. My father is watching from above, and his daughter is now growing wise and strong with his blessings and love. Thank you.
Very good.
Beautiful.
I
And
really miss him. I miss him so much. We used to share so many things with him, but I still feel that somewhere maybe I still want to share so many things with him. But that's life. But I am so happy and proud that he has instilled in me the virtues of life, the qualities of life, of being honest. My father was such an honest person, and he never, he always saw everybody with equal eyes and always told me that, we have to respect every man, every person, no matter what job he does. That is the greatest virtue of life that I have learned from him.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
very true. Very true. And now, Mary Lynn.
okay. Let me pull mine up. Mine too is about my father. And as you both know, I lost mine very early too. In fact, he had just turned 50. He was only 50 in 12 days when he died. He had a massive heart attack that just took him out. Anyway, the name of my poem is A Tribute to My Father. In 1945, the war was just over and the world was in turmoil. For the loss of innocent lives, it just wanted to cry. Still, you and Mom decided to commit to one another, starting a family. At that time, I know I was just a twinkle in your eye. You taught me by example so many things. How to treat others by giving them a smile, giving them the feeling of being accepted, loved, important, and most of all, so worthwhile. You taught me not to be judgmental or critical, but instead to give love unconditional. And you showed that by loving me no matter what I did, even if I disobeyed, which it was totally unacceptable. When I reached my teenage years, you showed me what to look for from the man that would ask for my hand. Your relationship with my mother taught me what I was to expect. Then, in talks between you and me on this subject, your wisdom you would expound. Without your guidance and unconditional love, I don't think I would have made it without the help of my Heavenly Father above. So thank you, my dear Father, for being a wonderful example of what a loving and good father should be. And that you sure were to me. That's it. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's beautiful.
And I like, she just said, there are so many times I wish my father had lived longer so that I could ask him about things that I didn't know anything about back then. Because my father was very wise, especially about spiritual things. Now, he didn't go to church, but he saw to it that we went to church. So I don't know what happened that caused him not to want to go to church anymore. But he never, until I got married, he never stepped foot in another church.
Wow.
But he had, he taught me. And while all the rest of the family went to church, he cooked our dinner. And when we came home from church, we had the best dinners you ever put your taste buds to. I mean, they were fantastic. But there were a lot of times we would sit at the table and we would have long conversations about a lot of things. And he was just amazing. And I so missed not being able to talk to me about things. The last thing that my father told me that was a very important. You remember when we had the Bay of Pigs stuff going on, in Cuba and all this stuff, and the wall and all that stuff. He told me, he says, Mary Lynn, he says, you don't worry about anything like that until you see China. Then watch out, because at that time, things are going to start to happen. And oh my, how I wish he was alive today so that I could talk to him about this. Because I know he knows a lot more about this than I do.
Well, thank you very much, Mary Lynn and Kenneth and Lakshmi. And now I'll share what I have. I have 3 poems. Is that okay if I read 3?
Sure.
Okay, I have 2 I wrote in 2015 and 1 I just wrote last night. So I will read the one I wrote just last night first, I think. And it's called What is a Father? Many poems are written about mothers. They speak of the goodness and selflessness of the women who bore us. But few think of the fathers whose role is there only in the background as mothers take the attention. The actions of a father are not always seen at the time as affecting you, and yet years later you bear the imprint of him. For a child to grow into a responsible adult, he or she needs to have both a mother and someone who is like a father. It could be an uncle or a grandfather or a trusted friend who assumes this role and contributes to the education of a young child. Growing up, my father was always there in the background for me. If life was getting me down, his was a shoulder on which to cry. And when there were triumphs, he was there to celebrate with me. He was my sounding board as I tried my new ideas on him. And when I was older, he was the one who helped me sort out the various boys I dated. His words made me see which were to be kept and which needed to be tossed. And he was the first man to call me beautiful, though at the time I didn't believe him. Fathers are necessary to balance out the relationship Mothers can be overwhelmed by children, but fathers are usually objective and allow mothers to see another side. Fathers are protective and will do almost anything for their children. Many consider working as hard as they can to make money the way to help their children. In the long run, this might be worth it, but if they miss the joyful moments of their child's life, was it too high a price? Some are able to balance it and make time for both. Those are the lucky children whose fathers cared to place their child above work. A father's advice could last a lifetime and shape the mind of his child, or a father could go the opposite way and not care at all about his children. Many leave when the going gets rough, leaving the mother to take care of her child alone. But this is for the fathers who stay and spend their time with their children. These are the ones to celebrate, and they fulfill their role with compassion and joy.
Oh, good.
Very
Thank you. That was how I feel about fathers today. This is 2015. And I wrote this one. I lost my father when I was about 30. I guess I was 30. It was 1969, so I can't really remember what date exactly it was, but I remember seeing him that last time, and he just was not quite himself. And I said, you know, he's looking old. He was 69 himself, and he died in 1969. So it's quite interesting on losing a father. The loss is immense, as if a rock had smashed your world in an instant and you feel it deep within, like a rip in your heart. His presence was always there for you, no matter what, and you leaned on his strength when you lost some of your own, thinking he would be there always. Now you cry into the darkness and despair is your companion, but he is there with you and holding you up through the days to come as you absorb the pain. Memories of him will drift through your mind at odd times and warm your soul as you remember the good and the not so good times, always with love and with the sheen of cherished moments, and he will live in your heart forever.
Very good.
very nice.
Thank you. And this, fathers are also veterans. And because this is Memorial Day coming up on Monday, I wrote this poem in 2015 for Memorial Day, and it goes like this: for the veterans. As a child, I stood wide-eyed as the uniformed men passed me by in lockstep formation, carrying rifles held proudly on their shoulders, like the heads of their loved ones who watched on the sidelines as they paraded down the street, symbol of the brutal might of a country bent on war and destruction to save the world. And the footsteps of these brave and dutiful soldiers echoed across oceans and onto distant shores not yet imagined by too few, as we waved our flags on wooden sticks, held by trusting hands, and believed with childish naivete the bubble of the dream that we now see burst and fluttering in the blowback of those actions. And yet on special days, we give thanks to those who paid the price for our parkless land, untouched by bombs and unmined, and for the childhoods of all who did not need to face the horrors of a war-torn land. We honor the veterans who braved the fray and lost limbs and lives to keep that dream and protect the vision of freedom created by our forefathers.
Thank you.
Very nice.
And so we have food for thought here.
In your poem, where you said that your father would talk to you about the boys that you dated. Well, in my poem, where I said when you and I talked about this subject, that's exactly what we did. We would sit down at the table and I'd be dating maybe 2 people at the same time. One would tell me this and another would tell me this, you know, and we would take Coke bottles and I wouldn't tell my father which one was which. I say, this one says this one says this. Now, which one's telling the truth, you know? And we had a ball. And you know what? He was always right. He was always right, even though he didn't know which one it was. Oh, no. I miss him so much.
Yeah, I
All
realized my father was always there when boys came to call on me.
Yeah, and don't let him honk. Oh my.
They were a little frightened of him, I must say.
Yeah.
But he was
yeah.
a sweet man. He was a very nice man, but he had a gruff manner because
Don't all fathers with their
he had
daughters?
grown up on the east side, the Lower East Side, and he had worked for the mafia. So he was a strong, he was a wiry, short, but very strong man. And he had been a fighter, a boxer. So no one wanted to tangle with him. He was just, you know, it's one of those people, he could come into a room and command it with his very short, he was not tall, but he had a voice and he had a presence and he was funny. So he would, you know, he would command it and he would talk to them and they would talk to him and and most of the time, you know, it was okay, you know. But when he met my husband to be, he said, I don't know about this guy. He said, he doesn't believe in anything. And I said, well, you know, I think he's a good guy. And my father said, well, we'll see. You know?
Yeah.
Fathers have a big role to play,
Yes, they
isn't it?
do.
Yes, they have a big role to play. So I would like to ask Kenneth one thing, is that sometimes the fathers, they don't express the way the mothers do. So sometimes men don't express things, feelings. So how do you handle such things
Kenneth,
as a father?
as a father, how would you handle that?
I guess yes. Like what we have just heard is that fathers have got many roles in life, and sometimes those roles are brutal on themselves, and they might bring that brutality into the home, or those roles might mean discipline, or like my father was a policeman, so the expectations in the home was that of discipline, was that of command and follow. So there's not a lot of love when that kind of interaction happens. But I'll say for me as a poet, because I'm a flow of emotions, I try to bring my poetry into my relationship with my son, because with poetry it's easy to just maybe remove yourself from the role of a father and just being two human beings convincing. So that is, I think it's an easier way of going down to the kid and trying to get some of these lessons into them. So yes, it's fatherhood. It's very difficult because you have to balance between being tough out there in the world and being
Yes.
soft in.
Right.
Yes.
How many of us have told our children, wait until your father gets home?
Yes.
Exactly. I remember. But could I ask you, how old is your son?
My son is now 12.
Okay, that's a difficult age. That is,
Yes.
I taught 12-year-olds, so I know that difficult age. But I remember my mother would say that to me all the time. Wait till your father gets home. Your father's going to deal with this. And I wound up saying that to my children sometimes when things got really bad, and I say, you know, wait till your father hears this, he's not going to be happy.
It's
Because I think children, when they hear it from their fathers, they know that they're in trouble because they're always in trouble with their mothers. But when they hear it from their fathers, they are really in trouble. That's the phone. Anyway, I that idea of a father having to balance that feeling of power that men need to have in the world, that must be so difficult for a man, because you're in that role of power, but you don't want to abuse it, you know?
I think nowadays, as more and more women are working professional jobs, you find that the same character arises even in women. So, yeah, I think in the future we see more women who just behave like fathers, because I think it's the nature of the work out there that molds someone into that kind of personality where they have to detach themselves from the smooth and kind of flow of the relationship. So I think now we are witnessing that more, especially here in Africa, where traditionally most women were not working, only fathers were working. So as more and more women start going out and doing professional jobs, find that they become tough and just maybe as strong charactered as the fathers.
Hello, we just had someone come in. Hello. Hello?
I can't see anybody.
I know you don't have.
Sounds like Melissa.
Sounds like Melissa. Is it Melissa?
It is Melissa.
Can't
Okay,
see you,
we
all we
don't
see
have
is
your
the
video
telephone.
on.
It's the number that is being displayed, I guess.
You have to put your video on. We are just talking about fathers. We all read our poems, and we were just talking about fathers. Do you have a poem to read?
I do not have this form to read because I've been sick from the COVID booster urban. And but I will talk about my dad.
Okay, can you get your video on, Melissa?
Yeah, I can't hear her very well either.
Phone, so I'm on my phone, so I don't know how to do that.
Not
I think it's on the. It should be on the thing. You look at the video thing. What does it show on the phone?
Down at the bottom is where it is.
It should be on the bottom.
Right next to the microphone.
maybe some.
Yeah, you think you can find it? Melissa, are you here?
I'm here.
Yeah, okay. I'll tell you what, just read your poem and we'll
She
just,
doesn't have a poem, she said.
she said she had a poem. Did you say you had a poem?
No, I do not have a poem. I do
Oh,
not
okay,
have a
so
poem, but
let's,
I will So I
okay,
will discuss my day really quick based on a poem that I did write. This was about my mother, who was, when we were living in South Korea, she had joined a luncheon with the officer wives and the high-level Department of Defense officials. And all the wives were sitting around and they were discussing what they would do if their husbands decided to take off with one of the pretty South Korean girls because they were also beautiful and, very exotic because a lot of Americans had not seen Asian women. So they were all talking about how they would divorce their husbands and how they would, financially ruin them and how they would just, make sure that they never saw their children again. So they were all sitting there and looking at my mother and they said, well, Frances, you have not said anything. What would you do? And my mother said, well, I had never thought about it before because she had that much trust and faith in my father. And, and he was a very noble man. I was very close to my father. And I would never listen to anything my mother would tell me. I would not let her ever discipline me or give me any wisdom. But my father, he was always there for me, and I was his shadow. Regardless of what he did, I had to be with him, even if it was going to a hardware store. And he was just a good man. And I know that there's a lot of noble men in this world, and I do feel sorry for too many children that do not have fathers in their lives. And I think that's a serious societal issue, and it impacts on a world basis.
I agree.
Very
And I
negative
think,
impact.
yeah. And I think that what you say is true because there are a great many fathers who are just really good men and they don't get enough attention, the good men, because a lot of the bad fathers are in the forefront of the news, and you don't see the good fathers because they're sitting around in the background. They're there for their children. And I agree. My father took me places when I was a little girl, places I wouldn't have gone by myself. But with him, it was always fun. I mean, he went fishing with me in Prospect Park in New York City, in Brooklyn. And there was a pond there, you could fish. And he took me fishing, I remember. I did not like fishing at all. I did not like the whole thing of putting the worm on the hook and all that stuff. But being with my father was just so wonderful that I just did it, And when he wanted to go fishing a couple of times, I went with him. And wherever he went, I went with him. I went with him to see my grandfather in the nursing home, and that was a disgusting experience, I have to say. I went
That's a
with my
horrible
father.
experience.
I trusted my father, and wherever my father said it was okay to go, I went. And he taught me
So
to do things. And
my dad taught me. Yeah, my dad taught me to be respectful to people, especially when we lived in South Korea, because he told me, he said, you represent everybody from the United States of America. If you mistreat anybody, it's going to reflect on your country. And my dad had a lot of wisdom. And I'm like you, Barbara. I did not want to be very far away from my father. And we used to sneak away from my mother and go do things.
Yeah, and my father and mother both had a material store where they sold dry goods and trimmings. And I grew up in that store, and my father showed me how to deal with people. He dealt with people all the time, and people love that store because of the way my father and mother treated them. And I saw how a person should treat people. I grew up seeing how people should be treated, and when I worked when I was younger, I would help people in the store. I would help customers in the store and be part of that world. So I knew how people should be treated with respect and kindness, politeness, and so I grew up with that. And my father always treated people like that. You know, I very rarely saw him treat anyone with disrespect. I don't think I ever did. And he was one of those people. And I think you learn that from your father. You also learn it from people, like Kenneth said, who are taking role models. There are women today who are in 2 women families, women who are married to each other, who have different roles. And, you know, a woman could be a wife, but she also could be the wife who is taking the role of the father. And I think that's a very interesting thing to examine, because when you're a woman and taking the role of a father, what is that like? You know, and so many women have had to take that role because they are mother and father to their children, you know?
Yes,
Yeah. And
that is what, yes. I agree to this point because I'm one of them. So I'm the father and the mother to my son. I'm very frankly speaking about this today here, because like all of you are like my family. Barbara ma'am, Mary ma'am, Melissa, and Kenneth Maswabi also. You're like family. So I am quite taking pride in this to say that I am the father and the mother to my son. And that is a big role to play. Okay, so anyways, keeping that aside, I had read somewhere once that the role of a father actually begins when the woman is pregnant. I read this quote somewhere that the role of the father does not begin after the child is born. It actually begins when the wife is pregnant, because that's when his role starts. And how much he is able to stand with the woman, that is the biggest point of a man. I completely I think about very positively about this, because a woman needs the man the most when she's pregnant. And that time, the role of the father is a big and huge one. And after the child is born, after the children is there at home, they all actually looks up to the father, and father has a big role to teach their children how to behave in the society. And he is the example, the biggest example to their children. So because looking at him, the lessons he teaches, all the virtues he will teach the children, that is how they will go out to the society and behave that same way. What you learn in the family is how you project yourself outside. So I think along with the mother, the role of the father is quite huge here. That how he actually treats his children, or say whatever he teaches in the family. So he's like an idol. He's an idol. So that role is
exactly.
And
Yeah.
God bless the
Yeah.
men in the community or church or wherever. I was a single mother for a long time, raising 3 children, and 2 of them were boys. And God bless, some of the men in our church would come and actually take them to do things that I couldn't do, you know, teach them how to work on a lawnmower, or how to do this or something like that I didn't know how to do. God bless those men that come alongside mothers who are raising their children. I really appreciated their help so much, so much.
Well, I think that the role of a father is so underrated. And I agree that it starts with the pregnancy. And actually, with my first child, I had to have a cesarean. And so I was out cold after her. And then and so when the child, usually they bring the child to the mother, but I was I was very sedated, so they gave my daughter to my husband. So the first parent that she saw was my husband, and he fed her. And so she bonded with him. And if he hadn't been there, I mean, the poor little girl wouldn't have had her parent. She would have been fed by a nurse. And though that's okay, infants need to be fed and they need love and attention, but she bonded with my husband. And that moment when he, held her and had her was, he said, one of the best experiences in his life. And so when I had my second child, I didn't want to be out cold no matter what. I said, I want to be up for this birth. I want to see my child. I want to have that experience. And so they were able to put her on my, stomach, and I could hold her. And that was the best experience ever. So I think that kind of experience with a father is very important, because that's when the father bonds with the child. Kenneth was shaking his head. Yes.
Yes, I think men have a tender side, and I do think that fathers, and I'm lucky because I came from a traditional family, and my dad was a manly man, but he was also very tender and very warm and very loving. And I think it's great that your daughter bonded instantly with your husband. And I'm like you, Barbara. I think that men are underrated when it comes to being fathers, and it's just such a special role. And I also agree that if there's two women together, the non-traditional roles, that a strong female can do anything that a man can do, and I think that should be respected as well. But I'm like you, Barbara. I was just a shadow to my dad, and I thank God for that. The universe, the one.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that that the problem today with some people, children in school or children in general, is that there are not enough role models for them. They don't have enough role models, and their fathers are not home enough. They just aren't home enough. They somehow or other, some men just think, well, I'm gonna go out and do whatever I want and not be part of this family because my wife has it all under control and I can do what I want. And so some men just go out and do what they want. In other, situations, men are there with their wives. It just depends. But I would say that that's the problem. You need role models. And that's what a father is. I think father is a role model. Father is, to a child, larger than life. It's someone that they can look up to,
Yes,
a
definitely.
role that is not normal. It's not usual. The father is the play guy, that the guy who they have fun with and enjoy themselves, and they don't. The mother tends to be more proactive with children. You're not doing it that way. You need to do it this way. But a father may be like kind of lackadaisical about certain things. And my own husband was like that. And I was like, oh no, what do you mean you didn't feed them? He said, well, they weren't hungry, and that kind of thing. And I said, I left the food. I said, what? He said, oh, they were playing, I let them play. They didn't want food, and then he'd take them out and he'd give them all this garbage. And I said, I'd say, he said they'd had fun, that kind of thing, where men are more like laissez-faire about certain things like eating and things like that. And women are way more like structured about that kind of stuff. And it's good sometimes for children to have that difference, to see that they can be a little, lackadaisical about certain things. But when I found out, I was like, what, you didn't feed them? How could you not feed them? They're starving.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
mothers
guess,
are the nurturers.
I guess the other thing is that nowadays with people playing both roles, I think it is helping a lot because traditionally fathers tried to keep to their roles as fathers, but nowadays you see fathers now playing the role of mothers as well, and or helping mothers to do some of the chores in the home. I think that really helps a lot with the bonding, because it's that bonding that is important. So I think there is hope for fathers going into the future, because fathers now are doing more and more home chores after work.
That's true. More fathers are staying home with their children and cooking and cleaning and doing the wash and taking them out and picking them up after school. Yeah, that kind of stuff is being done by
And the
fathers.
world we live in today, too, is so different than the world that I grew up in. When I grew up, very few women worked at all. And so the major responsibility for everything in the home fell on the man. He had to provide all the money, the home, all of this stuff. So his head was swarming with, how am I going to do this? Now in today's world, it is almost impossible for a family to live with one income, especially right now. Right now. So if the woman's going out to work and the man is working, then the home responsibilities should be, shared by both.
Yeah, divided.
And both respect, because she's helping to earn the wage as well as the man. And I think, ultimately, I mean, the way I was raised, you respect your husband, and the final decision is always his, whether you agree or not. But now it's not that way. You make the decisions together, and take some of the risk. A good wife will try to take some of that responsibility off of the father too, and make life easier for him too.
Yeah. Let's see who's
Well,
this.
in today's society, it's also difficult for a man if there's a divorce situation and he is the better parent and more nurturing and filled with wisdom and loves his children dearly, to obtain custody of their children. And I had a cousin that was married to a very inappropriate woman that was not attentive to their child and was committing adultery and never home. And he was, the caretaker financially and basically the caretaker of the child. And it took him over 3 years to fight the system to obtain custody of the child, because they automatically want to award that to the women, because they automatically assume the woman is the one that should care for the child. And that is not always the best decision. And I do see that the judicial system in the United States of America is starting to swing more favorably towards the male as the custodian of the child. And it's just wrong that society still has a lot of prejudicial attitudes against males being the best parents.
Yeah, I think that,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're right. And my husband was a lawyer, and occasionally he went to family court, and whenever there was a dispute about a child, it almost always went to the mother, no matter what was going on. If there was a dispute about custody of a child, it always went to the mother, because they always felt the mother was the best to take care of the child, unless they could find some kind of reason, mental, physical, that she couldn't take the child. But now they are thinking more in terms of giving custody to a man, because men are able to take care of children now in a different way. They understand more about what is needed to take care of a child. But I will say, when I was younger, my father was the end result, although my mother was a very strong woman and they worked together. So there was a partnership there. But I remember my mother came home while my father stayed in the house and cooked our dinner while he was in the store working, and he came home later to a fully cooked dinner. And so he never had to think about getting food. And she always cooked breakfast, and she my lunches, everything, she took care of me and she took care of the house. But we had a cleaning woman, a person who was taking care of our, yeah, she came in once a week, and she cleaned. And when my brother was born, she came and took care of him, so my mother could go to the store and work. And my father, he could also, work. And so,
And I have a son the same way Melissa was talking about, who's, anyway, same situation just about. And he has gone through 9 years of giving up everything to be able to go and get his son, take care of him, because of the same reasons Melissa was talking about.
and
She made a lot more money than what he did, but but my son is the one who takes care of the child. But he doesn't have the financial resources to fight it. So until now, and he's not just now, after 9 years, able to do that. And I know men who do that, they have a crown coming, I'm telling you, because he has put up with a lot,
so now he has custody of the child.
No, he shares custody. The
Okay.
divorce is not
Okay.
final yet after 9 years. And I'm not going to tell you the rest of it because that's personal.
No,
All
don't.
of the other stuff is personal. But this is the system. This is the way these men who are not financially, and my son has a college education, could get a much better job than what he has. But he can't do that and spend the time that it takes to be with his son. So he works all night so he can spend time in the daytime with his son.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he's been doing this for 9 years now. Thank God it's finally coming to a head, The son is almost old enough. Well, one more year, he'll be old enough to make his own decision.
It'll be interesting to see who he chooses.
I know who he's going to choose.
As Father's Day is approaching, actually, I think we should not forget the single fathers as well. The men who
Yeah.
are really, yes, just like the single mothers, the single fathers are also looking after their children, their home single-handedly. I had long back actually written a poem for the single father, but I was in a hurry, and so I don't remember it right now. In case I find it, I'll share it. But
Well, that would be very lovely if you could. Yeah.
yes, I'll try my best. And there I actually talked about the single fathers. So they are really doing their part, behaving like being the father as well as the mother. So it's a tough role they are playing as well. So we need to appreciate the single fathers too.
Amen. Yes.
Yeah, I saw a Hallmark movie last night. Hallmark, and it was it was about a father who moved with his daughter to a new town.
Okay.
And it was all about him trying to have a job and also take care of her. And it was very sweet, and they didn't go too much into it, but you could see the angst he had when he realized that he might not be able to do what he wanted to do. I mean, when his daughter had a little problem in school, it wasn't a school problem, it was actually she missed her mother who had passed away. He felt he could no longer protect her from these feelings. He wanted to protect her. He wanted to keep these sad feelings away from his daughter. And so he was going to leave this town where he had a job and everything else to go take care of his daughter. And, the movie ends up that the daughter really is okay. It's a Hallmark movie, so he's in love with the teacher who is his daughter's teacher, and it's very sweet. But he then realizes that he can't protect her from everything.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I'm wondering, Kenneth, do you feel that way, that you have to protect your son from everything?
I think it's a balance because I have to let him experience life as well. I realized earlier on that bringing my expectations very much into the relationship might not be the best approach because with expectation you want your son to achieve those things that you want, and you forget that they are an individual. I think my role now is to support them to realize their whatever their purpose
In
in
the
life.
chat, Daddy.
It's I think it's a balance. Yes.
Yeah, we have someone who just entered, Daddy. Hello, Daddy. Who are you?
No.
Who's that?
Who is it?
One of my good friends.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, who is this?
I'm just someone wanting to learn about pottery.
You want to learn about what?
Pottery, is that not what this class is, about pottery?
I think he's
About
saying
poetry?
poetry.
Poetry. Oh, are you a poet?
Yes.
Okay, do you have a poem about fathers?
Yeah, I can get one. Let me look through my notes because I've got all different poems I've written.
Oh, and what is your name, sir?
Rivy Zilks.
Okay, do you want to put your video on?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, we are an international group of poets. My name is Barbara. This is Mary Lynn on top, and then this is Kenneth Maswabi, and it's Priya Lakshmi Gogol, and we have Melissa Begley here. And your name again is?
Rivy Zilks.
By?
Rive. So Rive.
Righty.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. You're not taking your glasses off. Okay. All right. So, yes, we would love to hear your poetry, sir.
Right. I'll get it right now.
You know, when we were talking, when Kenneth was talking too, one of the things I remember about my father, one of the things that he did that really helped me was he never told me no. You know, he would say, Marilyn, the biggest thing for you to remember is that before you make a decision, make sure that you have all of the facts, the facts, the facts. Then make your decision.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of times that I wanted him to tell me no, and he wouldn't do it. He'd say, you've got the facts. It's your decision, and I trust you to make the right decision. And do you know, a lot of times, if he hadn't done that, I would have done it. But because I didn't want to disappoint my father, I did what was right, you know. And to
Yeah.
me, that has always stuck with me. And I did that with my children too. I did that with my children. I made them
Right.
responsible
Yes.
for their own decisions.
Okay, right. Righty, is that your name?
Right. Right.
Right. Righty.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was on mute.
No, you're not muted. Okay.
Oh, I apologize.
No, that's fine. Please unmute so we can hear your poem.
Daddy, father, oh daddy. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous.
That's okay. Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. We are welcoming you. How did you hear about our event?
I saw it on Facebook, and then I thought, oh, poetry.
Oh, I'm very glad you joined us. You're from England?
Scotland.
Scotland. Okay, great. So we're really international today. There's two of us from the United States, one from Nigeria, Kenya. Yeah, Kenya or
Botswana.
Nigeria.
Botswana.
Botswana. Priya Lakshmi is from India, and Melissa's from America, and you're from Scotland. So we're really quite international. We're very interested to hear your poetry, sir.
So do you mind if I have a couple minutes just to run it through my head while you talk?
Sure, we can talk until you're ready. Let us know. So we're talking about fathers and their roles and how they have influenced us. And I would say the biggest way that my father influenced me was just to take no nonsense. He did not go for nonsense. He just said, if things are going, just get out of there. That's what he told me. And he'd say, just that I had the ability to do whatever I wanted to do. That's what he told me. He said, if you want to do it, you can do it. And so I would try. And he would tell me, don't listen to the, and as a child, I was bullied a bit. I guess because I was such a sweet little innocent soul, and I didn't do any harm to anybody, and so they would just pick on me because I wasn't the neatest of children, and if I was in a group, I wasn't the most organized of children. So they would pick on me, and I would tell my father, and he would say, don't listen to them. He said, don't listen to them. You are beautiful. You are you, you know, and one day you're going to find the people that are going to respect you and want you. And he was right, you know, he was totally right. He made me believe that one summer I was so just distraught because kids were picking on me, and I was really upset, and nobody was helping. And I wrote my father, and he said, don't worry about it. He said, this is just a small part of your life. He said, your life is going to get so much better. And I have that letter, and he made me feel that it was going to be okay. And his letter actually helped me to move forward in that summer, you know, to try to be part of the group, you know, and just to accept that maybe, you know, I had things that I had to learn too. Maybe I needed to be neater. Maybe I need to be less, you know, me.
Francie.
Are you ready?
I
We
think
can't
that
see Melissa.
Melissa, is that your
I
dog?
know. Yes, I'm sorry.
Just
No,
can't
don't worry
see
about
you. I
it.
wish we could see you.
We can't see you.
I'm having I have Wi-Fi issues going on, so
Oh, okay.
and I have service people coming to rectify the situation, but they will not be here till this afternoon. But the biggest lesson that my father taught me was that the world did not think like me, that I had to expand my thought process and realize that it wasn't always about me, that I wasn't always right, and that I should pay attention to everything around me, whether it was other people's opinions, whether it was the political arena, because, you know, my parents had us involved in politics when we were around 6 years of age, so we'd always be aware of those type of situations. And I think it's very important that my father taught me how to actually think about life, to think about people. And when I was in school, and if there was ever a child that was bullied or mistreated and they needed assistance, my father said, I don't want the teacher asking for volunteers to help this child, because you are going to stand up and tell the teacher that you are going to be the one to provide assistance.
Right. Yeah.
And so, you know, so that taught me a lot. My dad taught me a lot about being a humanitarian type individual as a small child up until, you know, he passed away. And it's very important. And I think that's a good thing. And because I think a lot of times mothers are spending the time being the nurturers, you know, being the one that's the caretakers. And a lot of times the father is the philosophical one. And that's pretty much what the role of my father was.
Yeah, I remember my husband talking with my daughters, giving them life lessons that I now, after he's passed away, I now hear from them. Dad always said this, and Dad always said that. And sometimes he'd take them aside and talk to them, and I didn't hear what he said. And then now I'm hearing them say it, that he was actually instilling in them very important things. And I did not know at the time because I was too busy, you know. But he was giving them lessons to learn that they've learned in their life that I didn't realize they had learned. and sometimes mothers are too busy to actually see what's going on in their children's lives and how the father is dealing with the children, and I do believe that fathers are more logical most of the time, and that they are able to see both sides of a situation, whereas mothers tend to be a little honed in on one particular part of it. So Priya Lakshmi, I think what you had to do was quite extraordinary, being both mother and father. What exactly did you have to do that role? You're muted. You're muted.
I forgot to unmute. What I want to say actually is that, see, a man has actually to raise a family, a father, a man, a husband, he has quite a big role to play. So there are certain things I think a child or a son, daughter, whoever, they look up to a man. They need the touch of a man as a father. The touch is so important. I have realized this. I have seen my son also, like he's very much close to my brother-in-law because they are like my pillars of strength, my sister and my brother-in-law. So since quite a young age, since I was a child, now my son is 11 years old. So I have seen that maybe nobody has said that to me, but I have realized that a child, I think he actually looks for the touch in a man, to be called as a father, to hold him, to hug him. So such things I have realized that a man can give as a father. It's not just always the motherly touch. So there are many other things which I think a father actually does for a child. But in my case, like there is not a single thing I have realized that I have not done to give him all the attention of a father and a mother. So there are quite a lot of things actually. So and that is why till date my life is getting a lot big hectic schedule because of I run from here and there and doing all types of chores, the household work, everything. So both sides maintaining, it's a huge thing. So that's how I'm raising up, um, playing the role of both the parents. So but I have seen that yes, a father definitely plays a big role in bringing up a child, and I think every man should have that in them to realize how to bring up their children, because there are many men in the society, as I said earlier, that it is from a man that a child actually knows how to behave in the society, the things he will learn from his father. Okay, but now in the society, there's so much of poverty and other things that most of the men from those type of families, of the poverty-stricken families, they are, their behavior, their attitude, everything changes because of this monetary
Can I
problem.
ask you? Okay. Could we not have that?
I didn't get you.
Yeah, no, it's fine, Priya Lakshmi. It's Daddy. What's his name?
Okay.
Yeah,
Is
what
it
he just
okay?
put on there. Yeah. Okay. Are you ready? Are you finished? I didn't want to interrupt you. Are you ready, Priya Lakshmi?
Yes.
Were you finished? I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. But what I was trying to say is that, this, because of this poverty also, men in the society are changing. Their behavior, their attitude, everything changes because of the poverty basically. And education is not there in the some of the families here. I think in most of the parts of the world, education can play a much better role in also teaching how the men should bring up or raise a family. So education is very much important, what I feel,
I agree.
as men.
More educated men understand more about how to be fathers, but on the other hand, many educated men are not great fathers. So
Yes.
you don't know. Education
Yeah.
is not really the key to being a good
Yes, not
father.
really the key, exactly.
No,
Not that is also not there.
right.
but
It's not even
In some
money
cases,
is not the key to being a good father.
uh,
I think having
but-
had a good father is the way to be a good father. If you've had a good role model as a father, then you can be a good father. My father, his father was a very strict man, very orthodox, very religious, very compelling man, very strong, and actually quite an unusual man because his father was a carpenter who escaped from the horrible situation that the Jews were in the Polish corridor during the very early 20th century. And he was impressed into the Russian army. And so he escaped from the Russian army. He what is that word? Melissa, what's the word? When someone leaves the army, he
missing in action, or is when they
No, where he just
disappear.
doesn't go anymore.
No, it's a D
Yeah.
word. He
Yeah,
defected or
protected. Yeah, you go.
from the army.
Okay, defective.
Yeah,
But
from the
that's-
army. And he went to a seaport, got on a ship, went to England, got on a ship from England to the United States. And then he set himself up as a carpenter on the Lower East Side. And then when he had enough money, he traveled back to his family in the Polish corridor. And he saw his wife. He impregnated her and then came back to the United States, did his business, built a house, did this like he went back and forth like 3 or 4 times until he had a huge family. They had 6 kids. They brought them over in steerage. And my grandmother came over with her children and he had a house for her. So he
was
had an
determined,
entire
wasn't he?
life for her. And so that's the kind of father he was. He was that kind of father. And so my father, who grew up on the Lower East Side, he I guess rarely saw his father except when they went to temple together. Then he was very, structured, and he had to go to temple, and then he went to yeshiva. And then my father decided, nope, this is not what I want. I do not want my father's life. I don't want to be a carpenter, although he had the carpentry skills. He was great. I want to do something else. I want to be part of this American life. And so he went off in his own direction, and he got into some very interesting groups of people. He became a boxer. and he wasn't very big, but he became a welterweight boxer. And then through boxing, he met the underworld, the dark side of boxing. And then he became a chauffeur for this guy, Louis Lepke, who was in the mafia. And I won't discuss what kinds of things the chauffeur of a man like Louis Lepke had to do, but they weren't pleasant. And I think there was a book written about the mafia, the Jewish mafia. And my father was alluded to in that story, although they made a mistake in the chronology of it. But they talked about my mother and me. They had my mother's name right. And they had me, but I was a little too old for the book. So it may be that the person who got it didn't really get enough from him. And I'm pretty sure my father never interviewed for that. So it was all hearsay. But he was in prison. And then I heard also that he had a contract on him from the mafia. And because of that, he was traveling throughout the United States and getting people from he was getting my mother to send him postcards in different places so that they would not know where he was. And then to his dying day, he slept with one eye open. So that was my father. He was quite a character, my father. And I didn't know this until after he passed away. My brother knew. He told my brother, but he never told me. And so his life is very, very interesting. My grandfather, my father. I've thought about writing a book about them, but it's very difficult because there's a lot of research has to be done on them. And at that time period, there's very little on them. A lot of their records are gone, you know. But anyway, is this guy Daddy? He's not here anymore with us.
I would really like to know what Kenneth, if he could say one thing that he would really want his son to remember, what would he say to him?
I don't know. He's not here with us anymore.
Oh, Kenneth's not? Oh,
I'm
okay.
No,
I'm
Kenneth
here.
is there.
It's dark where I am, so maybe you are not seeing.
No, he's there.
But
see you.
for me, I'm a spiritual person, and I think the lesson that I want my son to remember is that life changes, but it is always good. It will change. He might see me today, but tomorrow I might not be there, but life will remain. And what I'm teaching him is that his interaction with this life should always be on the good side, and he will reap the beautiful fruits of life.
That's a great,
Wonderful. Absolutely.
great idea. Absolutely true. Yeah.
That's the beautiful thought.
And Priya Lakshmi, what would you want your son, if you had one thing to tell your son?
Well, I have started telling him certain things from my side. First thing is that as he's now going to school, he'll be, getting to see so many changes around him. And during this phase, especially 11, 12 years, so many things will come into his life. So I told him that he will be making friendships. There will be so many friendships in his life. But one thing I told him is that, yes, there will be bad friendships as well, good as well. But within those good friendships, we have to move on. Sorry, bad ones as well. We cannot avoid certain people from our lives. So we means like within those friendships, we have to move on. And plus, I want him to I want him to inculcate certain values in life. Like I have taught him to be honest, to speak up what he really feels, not to hold back, and then like, yes, he shares everything. We both of us share with each other, whatever he feels, he tells me. So I told him that yes, we have to move on. We have to be strong, and plus not get so emotional. He's a bit emotional. He gets sometimes, So I told him that yes, you shouldn't be that emotional as well. We have to cope up with all the things, and not to trust people as well, because I have seen so many things. So I have tried to pass it on to him. Being and just yes, I have told him one more thing is that no matter what, never speak out bad about anybody. Plus, respect girls. That is very important in bringing up a boy. The first and the foremost thing is that I think every parent should inculcate this in their boy, in their child, boy child, male child, is that to respect girls and respect women, especially now girls, as they are mostly around girls now in the co-educational school. So they should know from this stage itself, they should be taught about how to behave with girls, plus not talk anything bad about anybody. So that is very important. Always think good and positive. So these are the things I'm trying to inculcate. Let's see.
Respect girls. That's the one thing that as a mother, you don't need to, with daughters, you don't need to say respect girls, but you have to say respect yourself. As a father, Kenneth, what would you say about that situation?
Yeah. I guess for me, the starting point or the foundation of it is just to respect people, regardless of where they come from. I think with that, you nourish the fact that he's going to meet different people in his life, people from different backgrounds. So for him, he should not see the background what they come from. He should see the people
Yes.
in them. And I think that goes even with meeting girls, that he should see the human being in them, not the background, the fact. Of course, it's important that he sees that these are girls and he can have friendships with them. But the most important thing is for him to understand the humanity. I think once we go that deep into someone, it is always very difficult to mistreat them, because you don't see the background, or you don't see the emotions that are around. You see the human being that is there in front of you. So something like that.
No, that's
Yeah.
great. That's perfect. I mean, the
I would
human
like to
being inside of a person. Yes.
I would like to bring out a point here. Like few days back, something happened in my son's class. Like, one boy said to the other that your father cannot even manage to buy this. Something he said of that sort, which was not at all good. A boy speaking that language to another boy. So this got, it came to the notice of the teacher, the class teacher. So the class teacher has explained the same thing which I tell my son, is that never disrespect anybody, whatever job he is doing. This my father had inculcated me very deeply, that whatever job anybody is doing, he's doing for, that is his job and his life. So we should not demean anybody. Like whatever job he's doing, we should respect that. So the same thing the class teacher also informed, she taught the class that it was something so, like, this boy saying something so bad to the other one regarding the job of the father. So that is what he has learned from his family then. Everything shows Like what happens in the family is always projected outside. That is what I said. So so we should respect every person's job, whatever he is doing, however small or big the job is. A job or a work is worship. So that is what I have taught my son, to respect every person, to give respect to everyone, oneself as well as to others as well.
Mhm.
So that is why I'm
Well, if
saying
you
that.
do not,
Somebody said something, I guess.
Melissa?
I was just going to say, if you cannot respect other people, you do not respect yourself.
Yes.
And if you demean other people, you're demeaning your inner light, your soul. And it is very important that we treat all appropriately and with respect, because we're all here together on earth. And I'm glad that my father taught me to be respectful to people and to be a humanitarian, because you're absolutely correct by teaching your son those values. They're very important, and they will stay with him throughout his adulthood.
Yeah, I agree. Respect is probably the one thing that a father and a mother should teach their children. The idea, as Kenneth said, which is beautiful, that you look at the humanity of a person rather than anything else. And that's something that I've always, from being just a child, have always done. Looked at someone and saying, are they a person? You know, are they truly someone who is in the world, someone who, you know, who you should enjoy as a person? You know, there are some people who are not that way. They are not people that you want to be with. They still deserve respect until they, and what my father said and mother, is that everyone deserves respect until they don't. Until they've done something that shows you that you don't need to respect them, that maybe they're hurting you or doing something that's, you know, wrong, then the respect, then you have to rethink the respect, because you should only respect people who are acting like people, you know, like humans. When they're not acting like humans, then they, you know, they don't deserve your respect. They need to be
Well,
taken to
maybe,
another
maybe
level.
maybe it's not that they do not deserve your respect. Maybe it's just that you should just detach from that relationship and just let them be the way that they are. Because I do believe that we should respect all human beings, because we are created by the one, and we're here for the same reason. We all have a purpose, and that is to love, respect, and have compassion for other people. So I think just detaching from people that have a dark side or are not very nice people, I think that's just the best way to handle that. But we should still at least respect them for being a human being, even though we disagree with how they conduct themselves.
That's true. I mean, you would still respect them as a human being, but you wouldn't want to be around them.
No.
You
No.
take away your
Absolutely not.
presence.
Yeah.
You take away your
Absolutely.
presence from them, because that's the best way to show someone that you don't want to be, you know, with them, is to just leave their presence. And
It's just to understand life, that life is both good and bad, and there will be people who are bad, but they are people still. So the best way to deal with them is just to remove yourself from them, respectively, and you'll find that they don't affect you as an individual. They don't get their negative energy to be happening in you. So I think Melissa, there, I agree very much.
okay, and Mary Lynn,
Yeah.
what do you have to say?
Well, I agree absolutely with Melissa on that. You know, to disrespect somebody is to really disrespect the creator. Now, the only thing You know, my verse when I grew up was, trust in the Lord with all of your heart, and lean not unto your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. And that is the same verse that I give to my children, because it's always one that I was able to depend on. And since I was able to depend on it, I'm sure they will be able to.
Okay, so,
But
all right,
this is
let's,
this is off topic a little bit, but I think children, and we know there's an uptick of suicide throughout the world of children, and I think when they're demeaned and disrespected and ostracized, that sets in some really serious mental depression. And there's too many children that commit suicide because they're bullied, because they're misunderstood, because they come from homes that are not traditional, or they come from homes that are, you know, poverty stricken. And I think our words and how we treat people are very important.
Oh, yes.
And
yeah, and I think too that, yeah, that the role of a father is very important in this situation, because the father, he may not know that he is causing something, or he may not know that just one or two words from him might help.
And I know one thing too,
you know,
a son really, or a daughter, either one, they want the respect of their mother and all that, but they crave the respect of their father.
they do. They really want that father, that fatherly touch, like Priya Lakshmi said, that my father always let me sit on his lap. And way up until when I was older, it just comforted me to be there and put my arms around him, and he told me, and we talk, and that kind of thing can't be done with your mother, because it really can't be done. And so that kind of feeling that that daddy is there, and that all is okay, is something that people crave. They crave that feeling of complete attention that they need. And if a father isn't able to give that to a child, then they need to know how to do it, because it's very important that children have that complete attention. You know, it's like, put your phone down, look at your child, take them into your arms, and make sure that you are there with them. And the whole idea of being there with somebody is very important. And that's why I think fathers fulfill that role many, many times, that they are there with the children. They are there with them. When a father is there, he's there. He's not, you know, he's not on his phone. Hopefully he's with his child. And that kind of thing is very, very important, to be with your child. And, you know, not to expect also, my husband was he expected a lot from his children. So as a father, I think not to expect so much, but to accept the child at the level they are at, and not push them to go further than they are capable of going. You know, there's a limit where children can't go. And sometimes fathers will, my husband especially, tried to push my daughters to go a little further. And sometimes fathers don't quite understand this point, that there's a point where children cannot go. You know, they want to push them and push them and push them, and they think that pushing them is the answer, you know, and there's a point where children can't go. And sometimes fathers push their children a little too hard. Out of
I
love.
think fathers have a major impact on the relationships that girls have with males. I didn't realize until my husband passed away that I married a man that was similar to my father in his political viewpoints, his philosophical viewpoints, having a tender heart, but at the same time being a very masculine male. And it just amazes me when I realize now that I chose a husband that was similar to my father. And, you know, to me, that just kind of blows my mind because I know there's a lot of bad men out there. I've encountered a lot of negative things growing up, but I never, ever did not have strong support and love from my father and my mother, but I idolized my father and always kind of ignored my mother. Even when I was sick, I would not let my mother care for me. It had to be my father. And every aspect of my life, you know. And then I married a man just like my father. And I did not know that, like I said, until Kenneth passed away.
Well, I agree, and I think that I married a combination of my mother and father. I thought there was a lot of my mother and my husband, and but a lot of my father too. And I think that ability to be both male and gentle, you know, just being a man and then also being gentle is very valuable in a father, because then they can
And a
show you
husband.
tender sides, and understand for a daughter that it will show you what kind of husband you should have, you know. And then that's true. That's very true. But I unfortunately married my mother too. I found that out. And my husband was a lot like my mother. But so let's wrap this up. It's getting to be almost 12:30. And as you can see, both my daughters came in here. so let's go around and say one thing that we want to say about fathers. So we'll start with Kenneth.
I think for the lesson that I saw in my father was that for a long time, I think most of his life, he was very uptight with the traditional definition of a father. And later on in his life, that's when he started loosening up. And I think he missed a lot because of that. And it was just later in his life, just a few months or years before he passed away, that really we could bond and discuss things in a way that we have never discussed. So I think that's one thing I learned, that I should loosen up very early on with my son, so that he can enjoy my presence, and we could interact at a deeper level. I think that's something that really I saw in my father. Thank you.
Okay, and now Melissa.
As we stated earlier, fathers are underrated. There's a lot of fantastic fathers in this world. I was blessed to have one. And I think the communication that a father has with his children and the wisdom that he shares with his children will impact them throughout their lifetime. And fathers are just a blessing to children. And I'm just fortunate.
Okay, and Priya Lakshmi.
Actually, one more thing I want to say is that just like a mother, a woman has got her instincts of being a mother. Same way, a man will also have the natural instincts of being a father. And I think being a father comes from within, whether he is educated, uneducated, poor, rich. Okay, but we have seen families where, as when I had talked about the education part, when I've seen families like, because of being uneducated and poverty stricken, what is happening? They are becoming alcoholic. They are behaving so rudely with their children because of their background, and that is, and as fathers are being looked up to by the children, so that is again is passed on to the children, that's how the society is moving on now. So that's where I told about education. So anyways, so that is one part, and what I have learned from my father is that he always taught me about simple living. My father was very simple, and you know people used to say that he's too honest. He was so honest, which is whatever it was, and simple living and high thinking. That was his what he taught all of us, and many, like, he was very wise, very wise. Taught me the virtues of, you know whatever wrong it is occurs in your life, you should have the courage to stand up and speak up. That is one virtue which I have learned. Plus, he was very punctual. So, sometimes we got scared, like he was so punctual. And, that is one thing which I have learned from him. And honesty and being simple is the best thing I have learned from him, actually. And of being very wise and have a good heart. Whatever the situation is, that he has always taught me that be a good person. Being a good person is the main, how we move on with life. So that is what I have learned from him. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mary Lynn?
Well, we've all discussed all of the characteristics of a good father. And I also, as well as teaching your children to succeed, is to teach them to live, to love, and to laugh. That's just as important. And for the fathers to be there. Their children know they're there. That their presence. One of my things my father did, he always loved to see us laugh. And he made a point of trying to make us laugh. And oh, wow, I remember that more than anything else. That would be my advice. Be there, teach them to live, love, and laugh.
And I agree. My father, what did I learn from my father? I think I learned from my father that you treat everyone the same, as equals, and that you are able to be happy even though things aren't exactly going your way, and that you should be strong when you have to be strong and tender when you have to be tender. And also, I think that a father is the last bastion of your life. You form your life according to how your father has treated you. And if your father has treated you well, then you're going to have a life where you treat people well. If you come from a home where your father is beating you, unfortunately, that's very sad, because unfortunately, you might be somebody who beats other people because of that role. So
Yes, that's what I
anyway,
said, yes.
yes. I have to go. I think my puppy wants to come in. Yes, come in. Rachel. Rachel. They were knocking. Anyway. So I think we've pretty much gone through the entire thing. Yeah, did you say you wanted to come in?
I was just saying that we're gonna leave soon.
Oh, I am
Yeah,
gonna
that's
come.
good.
Yeah. So it's very important for us to celebrate fathers, to give them all of the due that they're deserved, and to celebrate mothers who are taking the role of fathers like Priya Lakshmi, to celebrate fathers like Kenneth who are trying to teach their children the way to live. And Mary Lynn, you were a mother and father too at some point in your life. So I celebrate you. And let's all think of fathers as equal partners and not as in the background as they have been in the past. Fathers are just as important as mothers, and on their day, they deserve to have, even more attention placed on them. And so thank you so much to everyone who came out. Mary Lynn,
Thank you so much.
yes.
It was a
Mary Lynn,
pleasure.
thank you for
Yeah.
coming, even though you don't feel well, and I would suggest that you go at least to a doctor. And Kenneth, thank you for coming, and Priya Lakshmi, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And
Thank
for the
you.
guy who came, who didn't stay, thank you for coming. He might have
And
been
happy-
intimidated
and
by
hap-
us, yeah.
Happy Father's Day to advance Father's Day to
Yes, happy
Kenneth.
Father's Day, Kenneth.
Yes,
Yeah.
Happy
so
Father's
all of
glad
Day,
to
us.
see
Kenneth.
you.
Thank you. I learned a lot, really. I think these are important lessons that we are always learning as fathers, what is good and what is not that good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, people.
Thank
And we
you.
will see you in July, in June.
June.
I believe our next one will be on caretakers, right, Melissa?
That is correct. And that was suggested by Mary Lynn, and it's an
Mary Lynn.
excellent topic. And I wish other people would suggest future topics as well. And thank
What
you,
is
Mary
the
Lynn, for
topic?
that. Because
Yes, we have
caretakers.
in the chat room. We would like people to suggest other topics for
Okay.
our Raising Awareness Poetry Initiative.
And
And
there's
love
a
to
lot of
read all your poems. And then the discussion was brilliant, as always. Even though we had only 5 people here, it was just a wonderful discussion. And
I'm only a half a person since you can't see my beautiful face.
yes, we can't see your beautiful face, my beautiful.
We see your telephone, though.
avatar.
We see your telephone.
Good.
I took a picture of you and your telephone.
My
Well,
twin
thank
avatar
you.
sister there. But we are twin avatars in so many ways. And just recently found out there was another way we're twins. So it's kind of amazing. But yeah, I'm very happy that this turned out the way it was. And thank you again. And we will be having our next one in June. And Mary Lynn, again, I suggest at least go to a doctor.
I've already been.
Oh, you've already been? And what did he
Oh
say?
yeah, I'm fine. I just need to take time to get over it. That's all. Just gonna take time. And
Okay,
it's just, right now it's just, drink water.
yeah,
But now 2 days ago I couldn't talk at all. So I'm doing really well now.
okay. Well, take care of yourself and we'll see you next month, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Good seeing everybody.
Kisses,
Bye. Night.
kisses from
Bye.
Nice
Bye.
seeing you, everyone. Bye-bye.